Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Diane. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to Love Dripping from the Walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this week's episode, we have me, your host, Elizabeth Cunningham. Hello. And we have Diann Spicer. And Diann Spicer was on episode 6.
It was 5.
It was 5. Yeah. I'm like, oh, shoot. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it was 5 or 6.
I know. It's only because I just looked at it. So.
Yeah. I was like, one of the earlier episodes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that podcast was absolutely, we're not going to do an overview of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
Go listen to it.
Yep.
If you haven't, just go listen to it and then come back to this one. One of the reasons why you reached out to me to do a second podcast was that your relationships now look completely different than they did when we last talked. And it was still kind of a short period of time ago. So 4 or 5 months ago. And it's just extraordinary how things can kind of turn around and progress. And sometimes you just don't even, one thing that I have learned about life is you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
I have no idea. You think you do, or you have a plan, and then it's like, nope.
No.
Completely not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And sometimes in really amazing ways.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what has happened since the last time that I talked to you?
Yeah, a lot has happened. So the last time we were talking about my ex and being introduced into the polyamorous lifestyle and all of that, and how we had this conversation about his girlfriend and all of that. And he ended up moving out, and we pretty much had ended our relationship. And a lot has changed since then,
right? Because the last episode was literally the Tuesday after that. You were like, he was moving out, and that whole thing.
Yeah. So he ended up moving out and staying moved out. He moved out with his girlfriend, all that stuff. I don't know. Past that, we were still in communication, and then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, I'm living by myself. I was enjoying having the apartment by myself. It's like one of the first times I'd ever actually had a place to myself. Mm-hmm. So it was really nice.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And through all that, so it kind of all rolls together. I went to a karaoke competition in Vegas and ended up hanging out with a couple people, and
Can we pause about the karaoke competition?
Sure.
Though? Because I totally want to. Yeah. I just want to brag about you. I want you to brag about you, but
no.
I want people to know. I want people to know.
Fine. Yeah.
Okay, so you did because I've been following you on social media about your karaoke competition.
It's fun, yeah.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Diann is an amazing singer, amazing singer, and you sing opera.
I do, yeah. I have my degree in music, so I am classically trained, so I sing opera, and I was in an opera production a few months ago and that kind of stuff. So the karaoke thing was kind of a fluke. It was like I just decided one day, I was like, I'm just gonna audition. Mm-hmm. So and then it turned out to be this whole competition and regionals and states and nationals and all this stuff. And so I got into nationals by submitting a video. And so whoever got the top 5 of each one of those submissions got to skip state and then go straight to nationals, which is what I had to do because honestly, I was busy the weekend of state. And so I couldn't
You're just like, I have to kill this.
Yeah, I was like, because I did another live competition and I got 3rd place. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if I don't get 1st or 2nd, I can't go to state. And I ended up getting 3rd. And so then I would have had to compete at state, but I was busy that weekend and I couldn't change it. So then I did the video submission. Gotcha. And the video submission got me to nationals. And so that's how I got to go to nationals, is through that competition. And
So cool.
and I got a timeshare suite there, and I got to stay there for like 3 days and just be at the competition and be in Vegas in August. It's like a huge, huge deal. I didn't even know it. This is my first year, and I'm just like, I don't know.
That's hilarious.
So it was good. It was a great experience. It was, a whole bunch of things, and I'm starting now to get ready to do it again this year. So so I have to go through the whole thing again, and I'm picking out songs and everything like that. So, and I ended up getting, I think, 51st out of 87 people in nationals. So it's good for my first year.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm pretty happy with it. And
especially for going into something where you're like, I don't even know what this is. Here's a video.
Yeah. I look at it and I'm like, I was not ready to do all 4 of my songs. You have to pick 4 songs. And then you do 1 round, and then you do a second round, and then they judge you and they do all the calculations. And then they have a top 25 or top 10. I think it's top 10 get to do like 2 rounds, or I don't remember exactly. I think there's like a semifinals and there's a finals. And then the top 2 people in nationals get to go to international. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So that it's been fun. It was like something that just came out of nowhere, and I just did on a whim, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's something that's now a part of my life. So, and it's created my relationship. So
I know. I made you go on that tangent, but now we're back. Okay. Yes. So you were at this ridiculously awesome competition for karaoke, and you were in nationals. Okay, go.
Yeah. So I'm in nationals in Vegas, and I was like, cool. I'm single. I didn't really know what was going on. I was completely free and everything. I'm like, let's see who I want to hang out with.
Sure. I get that
Vegas,
gift. Yeah, totally.
It's a bunch of people that sing, and, we have that kind of stuff in common. So I ended up hanging out with a few people over the weekend, or over those 3 or 4 days that I was there. And there was, to be completely honest, there's a couple people I had my eye on.
Like you do.
Yeah. So I ended up hanging out with a couple people, and then I'm like, it's so funny because I'm like, should I say his name? Should I? Probably. He's going to be a part of my life. So what's funny is he goes by a different first name, or a different name for his like stage name versus his actual name. So I'm like, I'm going in my head. I'm like, what should I say?
But you did say that you talked to him and you told him that you would talk about him.
Yes. Yeah. I did. I was very clear about it. I'm like, I'll just talk about it. So, So his name's Taylor. That's what I call him. So, yeah.
That's what you call him, and that's what his actual name is?
Mm-hmm. His actual name is Taylor, and his stage name, he goes by James. So that's the confusion.
Like James Taylor?
Everybody does that, yeah.
Even that split second before I said it, I was like, this is the cliche thing to say.
Right?
But you can't help it.
Yeah, so he goes by, and it's actually his middle name. His middle name is James. So his stage name is James. So it's funny because in the karaoke community, I have to remember to call him James. Mm-hmm. And then when we're not around karaoke people, his name is Taylor. So, and that's just, and his family calls him Taylor, and like everybody. So I actually actively asked him, like, what do you want me to call you?
JT.
Right. We're going to come up with all sorts of nicknames.
I was like, oh my God, don't get me started. We've already went on a tangent. So I call him Taylor, and that's, and again, I hardly ever say his name out loud, which is a funny thing. Like, he points that out because he says my name all the time. So. Jimmy T.
Gonna be like, what are you guys talking about? No, it's great.
Who, him? You mean?
Yeah. He's
like, What is happening right now?
What are all these names that I It's so funny. But yeah, so that's okay.
Jamie Tay. Okay. All right. I'm going to try and contain myself. I make no promises
anymore, I'm sure.
Oh, man. I really want to ask his last name, but you don't have to say his last name over my podcast.
Well, I mean, you've said my last name. It's fine.
I would ask him first. Ask him first. If we have a third episode and he's totally fine with it, then we'll say his last name.
Okay.
But
I'm not going to do that.
Last name is definitely like a first person permission thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've
already said 2 out of 3. So
yeah.
I'm sure you'll come up with more. But yeah, so Taylor and I hung out. So what's funny is we auditioned for the karaoke competition on the same night. I remember seeing him and going, that guy looks interesting. Like I was attracted to him the first time I saw him. Mm-hmm. And he looked like he was really into like learning the song he was going to sing and all of that stuff. So I didn't bother him. Plus I came by myself and I was just kind of like, nah, I'll just do my thing. And that was February, and then we went through the entire competition together. So 6 weeks of singing once a week around each other. Never talked to each other. Didn't really, I had one of my best friends came almost every single week, and so we just ended up hanging out every week while I was waiting to sing. And then I won 3rd in that competition, and he won 5th. So we were on the stage together.
What?
Never talked.
That's so funny.
I know. Then we went to Vegas, and I ended up, I sought him out. I actually was like, oh, when are you singing? So we have different numbers. We sang at certain times depending on what numbers we picked. It was like a random draw. And so I made sure that I was around whenever he sang on stage, and I would hang out and stuff because I was interested, but I wasn't really, I was like, okay, let's just have fun. It's Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And then he actually ended up posting on Facebook about my voice.
Really?
While we were in Vegas. And he was like, Diann Spicer's about to sing. I love her voice. It's so beautiful, or something like that, right? It was just, I was like, what?
Just some sort of shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe he is interested. So then we started hanging out, and I hung out with him, and he, there's a lot of time to sit there. There was 87 singers total, and they sung, everybody got to sing the first day and the second day. So it was a long day of watching people.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I was like, I can't wait until this podcast is on video, because then you can see my face oh my God. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And you don't have to stay for all of it. It's not, you can go and do, it's Vegas. You can go and play in the casino. You can go, there's a pool there. There's, there's a bunch of stuff to do. Mm-hmm. So I hung out with one other person that I was sort of interested in, but as I got to hang out, I was like, well, let's, let me hang out and see, this is Vegas. I'm not, I'm just having fun. And I started hanging out with Taylor and watching people. And he was like, we were texting because we were in the same group because we had gotten the same vocal coach. And so we were now on the same vocal coach group on Facebook. And so we were doing group texts and stuff. And then I happened to text him about something. Mm-hmm. And then I started hanging out with him. And then the way he tells it is he asked me to do his eyeliner the next day and asked me over
okay.
We all do makeup.
Okay.
Your face again.
I mean, sorry. There's not, I don't think I know that when you're performing that regardless of your gender, you do makeup because you're on stage and all that stuff. I just had this, I should explain my face. I had this, just you. I can cut this part out later. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I just had this vision of like, you know, like when people start doing their own eye makeup for the first time and it kind of looks like raccoon eyes. Like you haven't really learned how to like fully like do your eyes and make it look good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what this guy looks like. I was like, but that's immediately what I pictured. And so my face was like, yikes.
Right. That's so funny. Yeah, he hadn't put anything on. That's why he asked me, is because he wanted to like do a little makeup and stuff. And he's like, sure. And I think he knew because we'd hung out the day before, and he was like, well, you know, maybe she's interested or whatever. And so it was his way of like trying to get me closer and see if, you know, to actually have conversations and stuff rather than just hanging out. Mm-hmm. And so I came over to his we had little like timeshare rooms, so they were actually really nice. They each had a kitchen and like a jacuzzi tub.
Cool.
And, it was so cool. We were like, it was so nice. And so I went over there and, you know, I helped him with his eyeliner and I made some jokes about, I don't even remember, it was something about like being a unicorn and like, you know, I was kind of made it poly and like, you know, tried to put some stuff in there like, hey, I'm interested.
God. I'm like... There's a part of me that's like, Jesus Christ. Like, can you two be more passive about this?
I know. It was pretty funny. So I think that morning he had to perform in the morning and I didn't perform until later in the day. And so after his performance, then we ended up hanging out in his room and like talking about stuff. And so that's when we got to talk a little bit more. And, you know, it was so funny because I told him, I was like, you know, if I'm interested in someone, then I want them to make the first move. And it's so funny. It's a thing that I have. Like, I'm a little more conservative that way, where like, I just want them to make the first move. And I will flirt all ways till Sunday. Like, I will just flirt with them and do, you know, try to show them. But like, it's just a thing that I have always wanted them to make their first move.
That's so funny.
I know.
I get really impatient sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, I like you. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Yes, no.
Right. Right. And it was really funny because, like you said, we were being so like coy with each other. It was really, really funny.
Like the impatient part of me, it's like, what? When are you gonna do the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So we were. So yeah, it was really funny that we were so coy with each other because our relationship is not like that at all. Like, we're super straight with each other, like completely straight. But it was really funny because I said that and he's like, so he has autism and he just got diagnosed with it last year. So it's very new for him and he's very responsible for it. And like, I love talking to him about it because he's still learning about it and I also learn about it. But it's part of why he's so straight with me. Because he cannot read social cues. He cannot read, like, expressions on people. He can't read, you know, like, he just doesn't have that. So he asks me questions all the time. Like, you know, like, you know, one of the things that I've noticed and I've pointed out to him is, like, he'll ask me if I'm sad. And most of the time, I'm either tired or hungry. So, like, my facial cues and, like, the way he sees it is sad. But I'm not actually sad. I'm actually either hungry or tired.
Huh.
So it's one of those things that that he can't read it. So he's going to ask about it.
Well, that's so great that he can ask about it though.
Yeah. And I told him right off the bat, I'm like, anytime you need to ask me, you just ask me because I will always give you an answer because I get he just doesn't understand. Like, it's just not, you know, and he's actually really good at it because he's, you know, had to deal with it almost his entire life without knowing that that's what it was.
Sure.
So he's really good at being social and fitting in and like you can't really tell. Like I knew there was something, but like it's, you know, I didn't know that's what it was until he told me. And then, but it was so funny because when I said, you know, I like the other person to make the first move. He's like, well, I'm autistic. How am I going to know? Like, it was just, it was so funny. It's just like, okay. And then he actually made the first move and he kissed me. So, yeah. Then we had a very, very fun afternoon in his room.
Oh.
Yes. So it progressed from there.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I was almost late too. So it was so funny because my vocal coach was like texting, is like, where are you? Like, you need to get into your makeup and, you know, get ready for performing. Because they were all looking for me. And I was like, oopsies. I like had to run down with my dress and like get all my makeup done and everything. Like, and I was like flustered before I had to sing my second song. But it was worth it.
Maybe, you know, better planning next time to get to nationals. This is also why I'm super straightforward with people about when I like them, because then it's just like, I don't know, it just works better.
Yeah, it just works. Like, it just, and it was like, I literally, we ended up talking, we ended up, you know, after I sang, we hung out more, and, you know, we just hung out in his room and we ate food together and like and we just started talking about stuff. And it was like, I literally had this thought, like, was this human created for me?
Wow.
Because he just, like, everything he said, like, he's a gamer and he's, you know, into the same music that I'm into. He's, you know, obviously he is a musician. He plays like 10 different instruments. What else? There's just quirky things. One of the really, really strange things that came up that was just like, no way, is I was talking, he asked me like what one of my favorite opera arias is to sing. Now, you know, and I just assume that most people have no clue, because there's so many opera arias out there and not many people know about opera arias. Like, it's just, you know, not one of the things. And I said my favorite one is it's called Mon Cœur s'ouvre ta voix. So it's French.
Clearly.
Yeah. Just in case. It means, I don't even know the exact translation. And the funny thing is he speaks French.
No way.
Yeah. So he learned French in high school and he took years of French, and so he knows it. And he's like, oh, you mean like this song? And one of his favorite bands has part of that aria in one of their songs.
What?
Yeah. So it's Muse, and it's, I can't remember the name.
Wait, what? It's the song is called Muse?
No, the band is called Muse.
Oh, the band is called Muse.
Yeah, so the band is Muse, and I forget. It's like, I don't remember the name of
I know. Well, oh shoot. Okay, I feel like I know kind of what song. So a little bit of background about me. I've dated several musicians. Yeah. And one of the guys that I've dated, his band, like one of their I don't know, biggest inspiration bands was Muse. Yeah. So I've heard a lot of Muse.
Oh, I love music. And I've gotten into Muse because of Taylor, because one of his national pieces was Muse. That was actually the one that he wanted eyeliner for. It's a little more edgy, you know, so he did that. And it was,
oh my God.
Yeah, so he did Muse, and he's got an amazing voice. Just incredible. Like, the range of his voice is really awesome. Like, he just, I can like, he's talked about it where, you know, women will actually be attracted to him because of his voice.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah, and I can totally see why. Like, the fact that he sings the way that he does, like, is part of his attraction. Like, it's just incredible. And he loves my voice. And so it's just like, it's just amazing that we have this connection. But yeah, so, but one of the, and so it was like, you know, one, he knew that aria. And then two, like, his favorite band has it in one of their pieces. Like, it was just like, what?
It's like a weird coincidence.
Yeah, like, who are you? Like, how does this happen? You know? Like, so you have all these weird coincidences that just kept happening. Like, I literally had the thought, like, were you made for me? Because just things just kept coming up that we have in common. And it was just, you know, things that he grew up with or things that he liked that are the same things that I liked, and just our points of view were the same. And like, everything. It was just incredible. And so we spent the next couple days just in Vegas, just hanging out and like getting to know each other and having fun together. And we both didn't end up making it into the semifinals or the finals. And that just gave us time to hang out together and to really support the rest of the people that came from Washington that made it into the top 10 and that made it in the top 25 and all of that. So it was really fun and it was really great. And we just got to know each other those couple days. And then I came home because I had to work, and he ended up staying in Vegas a couple extra days because we had the timeshare for a week. And so he just ended up staying, and it was like we didn't want to be apart.
Yeah.
It was just like, I miss you. I want to see you. And like, we weren't even officially together. Mm-hmm. And we just knew like we had found our person.
Yeah.
We just, I mean, he told me they need to ask the universe to bring the person he was supposed to date, like bring her to him. And I showed up.
When did he say that?
I think he said it right before he went to Vegas.
What?
Yeah. And then I said the same thing. Like, I had just had my ex like out of my life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm creating the clearing for the human who will be my partner to show up. And he showed up. It was just incredible. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
There's something really powerful about declaring something.
Yeah.
Right? Like declaring like this is how it's going to go, or this is what I'm creating. And that's exactly what Brandy and I did, actually. And yeah. I mean, I can cite so many times, like even outside of just romantic relationships, right? Mm-hmm. But just having that space to, or that, not space, having the, it's almost gall. Having the gall or intuition even. Mm-hmm. It's like gall, it's intuition. It's just, this is what I'm creating now. This is what I want now.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, what I said was, I am what I want. That's what I said. I said, mm-hmm. I was like, what I'm creating, what I want is a relationship where I get to be celebrated and where I get to celebrate the other person and where we can create whatever we want and create a joyous relationship.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, it was like 2 weeks later is when like the whole New Year's Eve fiasco happened. Yeah. And she did the same thing. It was like literally earlier that day from the New Year's Eve fiasco where she was like, okay, I'm ready. She's like, this is the year. I'm ready. I'm ready for my person.
Yeah. It's just so incredible.
And I think she said tender and compassionate. She's like, I'm ready for like tender and compassionate, and I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about it last time, how I have my list. Like I made a list and like created the partner I wanted to show up, and he literally hits all of them. Like it is incredible. Down to like, here's what a little funny things about us. I said I wanted somebody with an accent. So it can go one of two ways, and it's probably both of them, where he has a lisp.
Okay.
So
it's
an accent.
Is that an accent? Does that count?
Here's the other thing too, and it's super cute. Like the lisp is super cute. It's very endearing. The other thing is we speak in accents to each other all the time. Like we literally, because my Google has an Australian accent. Like when she does maps or whatever.
Yeah,
I have her with an Australian accent, and so we always talk in accents around each other.
That's so funny.
Like we'll just be sitting at the bus stop and we'll just talk in an Australian accent. It's really funny. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not how I pictured, but
yeah,
I did create that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and there's just strange stuff like that. Like he literally hits every single thing that's on my list. And he made a list of things. I don't remember, but it was a much shorter list. It was like 3 things. And he's like, and I hit every single one. And I showed up. And he was like, okay, this is it. So So yeah, and so then it's just been, I mean, whirlwind of a relationship since then. He stayed in Vegas, and then the day he came back from Vegas, he moved into my apartment, and we became an official couple. Like the day.
See, I think that people listening are like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, that's crazy. And I mean, not that, you know, the reasoning or whatever, not that that makes any difference, but like I had told him that I was living alone in my apartment and that my lease was up in November and that I couldn't afford it on my own.
Yeah.
And his first thought was, and what he said to me was, well, I want to make sure you keep your apartment because I know how important that is to you. So why don't I move in and help you pay for it? Like that was literally what he said to me. And I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, okay. Because we literally just spent like, 2-3 nights together. Like I ended up staying in his hotel room like 2 nights. And so like I didn't even use mine for a couple nights. And, and it was just so natural. It just fit. It's like we just knew.
Yeah.
And it's been that way ever since.
Yeah.
And I now can tell people like, you just know.
You just know.
You find your person, you just know.
It's like magic.
Yeah. It's literal magic. It's just like, bam, it just like all fit together. So we now have been living together and all of that. And part of the update from last time too is with my ex, he ended up trying to come back and live in the apartment because his name was on the lease.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's part of the stuff that I've been dealing with my ex, and it just all blew up. Like it just, I'm like, go forth and prosper. I love you, and I will not have anything to do with you. And I literally had to put out a protection order because I didn't feel safe. And he was fighting for that he should be able to live in the apartment because his name was on the lease.
So what was he doing? Was he like calling? Was he showing up?
He was calling and he was texting, and he took me off of his friends list, but then he would still message me. And
oh yeah, like the hidden Facebook message. I call it hidden Facebook messages because I feel like I can never find them.
Yeah,
like all of a sudden you just kind of like randomly click on something and you're like, oh shoot, I have like 12 messages from like people that I didn't even know that these were here. I call them hidden Facebook messages.
They're pretty hidden. Like you can find them, but it's like it wasn't. And and I kind of knew that he would get in touch with me. There was a bunch of stuff. It's not even worth getting into, but he tried to get back into my life and in a way try to make me show that I care about him. Like it was just this weird. So, and also his ex-girlfriend, who was his girlfriend the last time we talked, like the one that he had just started a relationship with, he ended up moving in with her. And then something happened where she put out a protection order against him. That's how I got the idea, is because something had happened and he told me from his point of view. But I, given that she put out a protection order, I don't think that it went the way that he said it did. There's just,
I feel like it generally I mean, obviously, I have no idea. I am just hearing about this right now. I have no say-so in the matter, but generally, that is how it goes. Like, that's predictable.
Yeah.
Predictable when, something like that happens.
Yeah.
So, and also, I have no idea.
Right. And I don't really either.
Yeah.
I just know she became his ex. Something happened where he could no longer live there. Mm-hmm. Other things happened where he reached out to me because he had no place to go. Then he started fighting for, since he's on the lease, he has the right to stay at my apartment. He gave up the keys.
Okay, so but that makes a little bit more sense where, so his girlfriend kicks him out, and then he's kind of a little desperate. at that point. He's like, oh, shoot, I don't have a place to live. Oh, bright idea. My name's still on the lease at this other place. So now I'm going to go, assert myself back here.
Yeah. And he tried. So he did message me, and he would stay. You could tell he knows the law because he would stay away from actually threatening me. But he would imply it given, we were together for almost 5 years. So there's a way that he knew to say things to me to be like, no, I'm gonna, if you don't do this, then I'm gonna find a way to get in. And he even at one point lied about the keys because I knew he'd given me back the keys. And he didn't have any, but then he lied and he said, well, don't you think I would have made a copy of them? And so then I got scared.
Shit.
And then he said, no, I was just lying. I just wanted to see how you would react.
Dude, fuck that shit.
Right. Yeah. So it got to the point where my current boyfriend, or that Taylor didn't feel safe. Because he had actually reached out to Taylor, and Taylor reached out to him to be like, don't talk to her. And so then they ended up getting into it a little bit over text message, and I was like, don't provoke him. Like, just don't. Like, so then I finally got to the point where I'm like, I have to put a protection order out against him. I cannot have him near me. And I didn't feel safe. I didn't know when he was going to
Right, well, because at that point, it's like, it's unpredictable. Like, that's the scary part about people like that and relationships like that. And I've been in, similar situations where the scariest part about it is that you don't know what they're going to do.
Yep.
And you know what they're capable of. Or like a general idea of it anyway.
Yeah.
And you know what they've said and done in the past.
Yeah.
And so it's scary. I get it.
Yeah. So it got to that point, and I never thought I'd do something like that. Like, it was never like, it was not what I went out to do. And I got to the point where I had to look out for myself. And I had to look out for Taylor. I had to look out for the people that were actually in the apartment and who didn't feel safe. And so went back and forth with everything. And so now I actually do have a protection order for a year. So he cannot come within 500 feet of me. I cannot have any contact with him, anything like that. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I actually do. He actually, during the process of getting that all done, he actually at one point left me a voicemail he's like, well, if you want to send me stuff, because I have an idea of what you're probably trying to get to me, here's my address.
Wait, what? Like, what you're trying to get to him? What do you mean?
Yeah, like, so you have to serve them with the papers to say that they have a protection order out against them.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
So legally, because one of the things that happened is I said something about it, putting out a protection order against him, but I didn't know where he was. So I couldn't get the paperwork to him to be served.
Oh, okay.
And in that time, he actually came to the apartment when I wasn't there, and Taylor was at home and started yelling at him and stuff. And so I called the police because I'm like, I have a protection order out against him. Because he wasn't served with the protection order, they couldn't do anything.
They can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And it was frustrating, and I got it. Like, I got it. If he doesn't know, like, the police actually don't have the legal right to do anything. If they caught him doing something illegal, or they caught him, some other way, they could arrest him. But because he hadn't been served, they couldn't do anything. It was frustrating.
Can you serve him papers, or does it?
No.
It has to be done by someone else.
Yep.
Why can't you do it?
I don't know. I think it's because it's the conflict of interest that, like, since I'm involved in it.
Yeah, but it's the paper. That doesn't make any sense to me.
They literally told me somebody else has to serve him.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was so strange. I know. It's a weird thing. But it says on the paperwork, somebody else. So, like, my boyfriend could have done it. Like, Taylor could have done it. Or I actually had one of my best friends mail it. I couldn't actually even mail it to him.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't. They said you have to have
How would they
else.
know if you mailed it or not? Can't you put somebody else's return address?
Yeah, I know.
That's so dumb.
I know. Isn't that weird? But that's the law. Like, that's how you have to do it. I had to have one of my best friends do certified mail.
What?
And send it to him.
That's so strange.
I know. And that's how I knew he got it, is because he signed the certified mail and he got it. So, and then, so that I could go to court and actually have it. He didn't. So the first thing was to serve him with the papers.
Well, okay, just to back up on my own self here.
Totally.
I'm sure that there's some reasoning behind that law.
There has to be.
There has to be. It still doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but there's something about the petitioner and the accused. I don't remember what the other side is. I'm the petitioner, basically.
Right.
So I petitioned for the protection order. So the petitioner can't actually, I think it's because of the no contact. Because you actually have to be within 500 feet to serve them. But the mail, I don't get.
Yeah, no, I don't get that either.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Because that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, okay, well, if you're serving a protection order, then it also doesn't make sense for you to serve it to them.
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, fine. But it's like, yeah, the mail? Like, that's so weird.
I know, it's so strange.
But anyway,
so they did that. So.
Yeah, and my ex used to actually serve people. Like, people would call him and be like, hey, can you go find this person and serve them papers? And, like, he would get paid for it. Yeah. So I know that there's people that make money just being the person to serve papers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, So and I could have done that, but for me, it wasn't that important. Like, I knew he'd probably surface sometime, or, and I did. I got a phone call for his mailing address. So so now I know about where he's at. So, and that's fine. And so I had to serve the papers to have him appear in court, to then have the hearing to put the protection order in place, because he has the right to appear and say whatever he needs to say.
Did you have to go?
I had to attend too, but he didn't show up. A lot of the times, the other side doesn't show up. So,
but that also doesn't make sense either, because then that's less than 500 feet.
Yeah, and it's because it's a court proceeding, and they actually do have the right to defend themselves, and
sure. I totally get that. Like, I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying, like, if you can't serve him the papers, I'm just back. Sorry, I'm stuck. I know. I'm stuck on the not being able to. I can move on. I can move past it. I don't need to agree. It's totally. Yeah,
it's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm still just kind of on it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I get it. Because I watched people that had the other side attend, and like how scared they were. It was just incredible. And I didn't have that. Like, I don't have that. Yeah. I would have been a little upset if he turned up and like had things to say, because he actually did say he was going to say stuff about me, or like put out, or like take me to court for whatever. And it was just like, okay, dude, go ahead. Like, that's pretty much how I took it. It was like, okay, well, you can take him to court if you want to. But, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I haven't seen it yet. And so, but there were some people, that they seriously having, it's a domestic violence protection order.
Right, exactly.
So there's a lot of people that I watched in the court, like, that, didn't want the other side to be there. Like, were physically scared.
Yeah.
So, that's just how the court system works, and I never thought I would have to do anything like this. It just was not anything I thought I would have to do.
Yeah.
And it just came down to my well-being has to be number one.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I just had to be like, he can take care of himself. He can deal with whatever he needs to deal with. And this is what he's brought on. Because he forced himself, like, he basically was going to force himself into the apartment, and I didn't feel safe with it. And we had said, you are no longer living here. Like, that was the agreement. He gave back the keys, like, all of that stuff. And so it just, I finally had to be like, for my own safety and for my own well-being, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. And, it was probably the best thing for me. And it just was, it's very final. So, so that's some of the stuff that I've had to deal with, which is, I never thought I'd have to deal with. And I'm glad I've gone through the process. It's made it very clear for me, and It's just like, and I do feel bad. Like his life went completely downhill. Like he just is burning bridges left and right. And like, you know, from everything that the little I've heard from him, it's just like all the stuff that happened was just, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's, you know, it's just, he totally has, you know, his life is completely different now. So, and I just cannot be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I do, you know, not just about, you know, your ex in particular, but just when that happens, you know, because you never know what's going on in people's lives, you know, so it's just like, I do, like, I wonder, like, what did happen? Like, what you know, what is that all about? You know? But I think you're right. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're safe.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make sure that you're looking out for yourself. You know, I actually was listening to Oprah's Super Soul podcast. It's my favorite podcast. I mean, I love my podcast.
Yeah. But yeah.
My podcast is one of my favorite podcasts, and I love Oprah's Super Soul podcast.
Yeah.
And there's an episode that she has about her best life-saving tips or life-saving advice. And she, one of them, like the number one thing from like her years and years of, you know, interviewing people and talking to people about like their experiences and what's worked and all this stuff is to listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Like it's like, if you don't feel safe, listen to that. Like, listen to that little like animal instinct where it's like, hey, knock, knock, knock. You're not safe. Do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just what it came down to. It's like, I just had to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I still, you know, I still wish him the best. I still, you know, hope that everything works out, like that his life works out, everything like that. And I just cannot be a part of it anymore.
Yeah.
I had to just be like, nope, done.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah. So, I mean, that's, you know, and that's the update with that, you know, with my ex and everything like that, you know, and to, you know, to kind of bring it around to your podcast and like with the polyamorous relationship, that kind of stuff, because he was the one that brought me into all of that. And, you know, one of the first conversations I had with Taylor was, you know, I mean, we joked about unicorn and all of that stuff, and, you know, when I was doing his eyeliner, but one of the things we were talking about during our time in Vegas is he was like, well, what do you want in a relationship? You know, and I was like, well, you know, I'm polyamorous and I would like to have a partner that would be open to that. And I was just very clear that that's part of my lifestyle. That's who I am. And I was actually really surprised. And he said, okay, well, I'd be willing to be that, you know, and I was looking for a primary person, you know, like a number one relationship to have, but that I was very clear that it was, you know, I wanted to have an open relationship. And since then we have talked about it, and we've chosen to be in a monogamous relationship and just be the two of us. And honestly, like, we are way too into each other, like, to want anybody else. It was really, really sweet. I don't remember, but on New Year's, I was drunk, so I don't remember exactly what he said. But right before we went to sleep, he told me, he's like, yeah, I just don't see myself caring for anyone as much as I care about you. And because we've talked about, you know, opening up our relationship in the future, and that it is something we're both open to doing. And that we're clear that it would be a conversation, and with clear, like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing, all of that. And I actually look forward to it. I really do. Like, I look forward to it. And right now we're not. We're in a monogamous relationship. And, you know, and I talked to you a little about this earlier, you know, like, that doesn't mean that I'm not poly. Like, that I don't consider myself that. And it's that he doesn't consider himself that. We both do. And we're not in a poly relationship right now. You know, like, our relationship isn't open, but that doesn't mean that we don't consider ourselves poly. Like, that's still who we are. Like,
yeah. Yeah. You know. It's just not what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really love that. Like, I had to come to terms with that, like I had to really get clear about that. And I did listen to your podcast about that. Like,
I know you messaged me. You were like, oh, I've been wanting to talk about this.
Yes. Yes.
I'm really glad that I put that out.
Yeah, no, it was really great because I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm dealing with. And, and like I was saying earlier, like the best way that I could equate it is that I have a friend that is bisexual who is married to a man and they are monogamous. And that doesn't mean that she's not bisexual. She still is bisexual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's still attracted to women.
Yeah. She's still attracted to men. And she's committed to this one person.
Right. Yeah.
And it was just, then when I started thinking about it that way, I was like, okay, that makes sense, and I can, because I did grapple, like, do I still say I'm poly? Do I not say I'm poly? And I'm like, no, because I still am. Mm-hmm. And I still, I still believe in all of that. We still talk about it. Like, it's still a conversation I have. It's still like who I am.
Yeah.
And the relationship I'm in is not open.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So it's, so it was, and that was, that was one of the other things. Like, I could not believe that this human showed up and was just like, yes, I want to be that. Like, I want to be that person for you. Like, it's just incredible. Yeah. So yeah, it's just so great. Like, we just fit together, and it's just one of those things where I look to be an example for other people. Mm-hmm. And to be able to say, like, no, really, you can have that person. Like, you create that person, write down all the things, and they will show up.
I'm serious. I've said it multiple times. I've said it multiple times. I'm like, write it down, declare it, write it down. Like, seriously, open that up. Yeah. And can I give you something around just like from something that I hear? Just because I also know that you're still new to polyamory.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So one of the things is that when you say something like, we're really committed, we don't need anybody else right now.
Right.
I get what you mean by that. Like, I understand the feelings that you have around that. It's like you're just completely enamored with this person, and they're like, well, like we said, like it's magical. Like, when you meet the person that just connects with you on such a deep level. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But so I totally get that. Yeah. And I'm just wanting you to be careful with the language around it, because that phrase, though, we don't need I don't need anybody else right now, will get you.
Yeah, totally. And I get that. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm totally willing to be responsible for what I say. Yeah. So yeah.
And I also wanted to point it out just for the people who are also listening as well. Yeah. Because when you say something like, you're polyamorous and you want to have that in the future, but then you say something like, well, but I don't need that right now, then your relationship becomes attached to the thought of you needing something or not. Right. Right? Mm-hmm. And so then in the future, if you became attracted to someone, or like, you're like, oh, well, this person asked me out and actually I'd really like to say yes. I'd really like to get to know this person a little bit better. Yeah. Then you have that idea already. It's like Inception, right? It's like you plant that idea and then it just stays there. Yeah. You have that idea of like, oh, but does she not need me as much anymore? Or am I not fulfilling something? Like, so I'm just trying to separate that at the beginning. Totally. Where it's just like, okay, how your relationship is right now is completely fulfilling. Right? Like, it's just completely magical and fulfilling. And in the future, it may grow in other ways. Yeah. Like, that's how I would language it, just to set yourself up for success in the future. Yeah.
No, I totally get that, because we actually did have the conversation today, because I said I was coming here to do the podcast. And, we talked about that. And, it's just, and I was saying how and I think it was around the language of it. Like, I just didn't know exactly how to say what I wanted to say about that, because we are clear that we are open to having it be a different way in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And and look, Diann, I know you.
Yeah.
And I know that you know how to create whatever you want in however fashion you want to create it. And I know that you know how to do it in a way that's graceful and beautiful. And even if it looks rocky, like, you know, you just in what you just shared in the past hour, like, and this is what I said the first time that you came on the podcast. Like, it doesn't mean that everything that happened is like hunky dory.
Yeah.
But it's the way that you handle it, the way that you go about it, the way that you are, like the human being that you are is just so graceful and poised and understanding, and just like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I know that you're going to be fine. But I'm being very specific about my language for, you know, anybody and anybody else who is listening as well. Because, you know, as we know, language is really important.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, so because that's why one of the reasons why my personal definition for polyamory is being able to have each relationship be self-expressed.
Yeah.
And I word it that way specifically because it's not about the individual person getting exactly what they want, because that's not what a relationship is.
Right.
Like, a relationship is not an individual getting exactly what they want. That's not a relationship.
No, that's not.
But a relationship is its own entity. And polyamory is that in each relationship that you have, that relationship gets to be fully self-expressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that your expression, the relationship with you and Taylor, you're living the fullest expression of that relationship as it is right now. And the fullest expression of that relationship may change.
Yeah.
In the future. It may grow, whatever, you know, and it will.
Yeah.
I'm clear about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're both clear about that, too. And
Yeah.
And it's just at the moment, this is what it looks like.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And I think that everyone deserves to be loved. And I think my mission in the world is that people experience unconditional love and that people get to be free.
Yeah.
To be themselves. And I think that when you experience unconditional love, it's an access. I think it is like the most profound access to be completely free in who you are.
Yeah.
And I just see that with you, that when someone loves you unconditionally, that you just get to be free. And that's just what I see that you're experiencing, which is really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's funny because right after we got together, like, people were like, "Oh my gosh, Diann, you're glowing." Like, it's everybody around me could see. And it's just, it really is that freedom.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a whole human being to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole human being that's with me. And together we get to create this incredible relationship, like, as incredible human beings. Like, it's just, and it's so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Totally. So, yeah, I mean, and, you know, and to speak a bit to the future, like, we are, you know, we're going through the karaoke competitions together again.
He's going to do it again as well.
We're both doing it again. Fun. We're both, and
can you do it as a couple? Can you do duets?
Can.
Are you going to?
Yes. Yes. So there's a solo competition, and then there's a duets competition. And so we're going to do duets as well. So,
you're going to do both?
Yeah, we're going to do both. We're going to do both.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're doing that.
God.
We have different plans for where we're going to live. We have, all sorts of stuff.
Are you going to stay in Seattle?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I told him, I'm a Seattle girl. He's like, okay.
Oh my God, that's what Brandy told. Brandy was like, I'm not moving away from Seattle. And I was like, well, I'm staying with you. So I guess I'm not moving away from Seattle either.
That's the same reaction he had. It's like, okay, compromise. So yeah, we're staying in Seattle. And we're just looking at our future. Like, we literally are like, okay, what are we creating and what are we going to do? And, it's just so much fun getting to learn all of that stuff and yet feeling comfortable like we've just always been.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to just have that freedom to get to learn about each other and yet be comfortable and be like, I feel like I've known you my entire life. It's just so great. Yeah.
It's like coming home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Diann, this is a fulfillment of who I am.
Mm.
Like, that's what you're experiencing, and that's what you have.
Yeah.
Just lights up my whole heart.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say are some of the biggest lessons? Like, what do you want people to take away from you coming back on the podcast? What do you want people to get?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. One of the things is, the last time it was so raw, right? Like, it was just so right there in my face. Like, it was very vulnerable, very authentic, like all of that, which I was very happy to share, to just be that authentic, right? And one of the things to take away from that is, like, to be that way. Like, really be willing to be vulnerable about what's going on. It doesn't have to necessarily be on a podcast. I mean, it can be with, your close friends or,
right.
People that it's a little, I'm a little more open.
Yeah.
But
I would say, did you know my podcast is in 8 different countries now?
I think so. I remember you saying something about Australia and
yeah,
that's so exciting.
And, like, Pakistan and Italy. And it's all in my, like, data in the, I use Anchor, right?
Yeah.
And they track all that stuff for you, and
so cool.
It's so cool. And then you go on and it's like, this is how many countries people are listening from, and I'm like, shut up, seriously? There's 8. Oh my God,
it's so exciting.
Anyway, so people in at least 8 different countries
hear all about
what's going on. So yes, and your point being is that in being vulnerable, you don't have to share on a podcast with 8 different countries.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but and the point is just be willing to be vulnerable with the people that care about you in your life, because that, you're not alone in this, and that's part of why I do share publicly, is because I know there are other people that may not be going through exactly what I'm going through, but that they have something in their life, or they have someone in their life, one that is, an ex or somebody who is just not good for their well-being, like for themselves. And there's a point where you just have to cut your losses and you have to say, I wish you the best and I cannot be a part of it. And that's just how that has to go.
There's a time to be polite. There's a time to be nice. There's a time to have people like you. And when your well-being is in jeopardy, it's not that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing. And then the other thing is that when you do clear the way, and like we've said, you do create your partner, they'll show up. Yeah. They absolutely show up. And it is a surprise. It doesn't matter how prepared I was. Like, he was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that we had seen each other since February and like had been in a competition weekly and had literally watched each other sing once a week for like 3 months. Like,
so crazy.
He was still a surprise.
Yeah.
He was still a complete surprise. And I was a surprise to him.
Yeah.
You know, like he had noticed me. We noticed each other, but had no idea. Like that was the person.
You just never know.
Yeah, you don't. You don't.
That's in teaching my yoga classes, there's an intention that I create in my class every once in a while, because I create different intentions every single class, right?
Yeah.
But the intention that I create and bring back is willing to be surprised.
Yeah.
Being willing to be, like, intentionally being willing to be surprised by yourself, by people around you, by life. Just being willing to be surprised.
Yeah.
By life.
Yeah.
Right.
It just, yeah. And, and that I created him to show up, and that's the other part of it is like, I really was intentional.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I wouldn't settle for anything else.
Yeah.
It just was not going to be, and we have conversations about stuff like that. Like now that we're in each other's lives, that we hold each other up to the big people we are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's just, like I tell him, one of the things that I had to ask him to really hold me to account for was cleaning. It's one of those things that I just am not known to be consistent about. And that we're in a partnership together. He's willing to hold me to account for it and like really be patient with me about it. And in turn, there are things for him that, I will hold him to account for. There's certain, I'm like, of course, I can't think of anything specific for him, but which is fine. But there are different things that I keep him to account for, around what he does. And it's just because we stand inside of that, we're big people and that we love each other, and it all comes from love. One of the main things I tell him, and one of his things is that he needs reassurance. It's just part of how he's made. It may be the autism, it may be something else, but like it's those things like he
is that his love language, the words of affirmation? Do you know what his love language is?
His love language is touch. That's the biggest one.
Maybe it's his second one then?
Yeah, it might be his second
words
one.
of affirmation?
Yeah,
something like that.
And it's also he can't. I think it's part of his autism where he can't read things, and so he needs to ask to be sure. And so there's some of that's in there too. But he always asks me like, "Do you love me?" And it's just it's a completely honest question. It's not like he doubts me. It's not like he doubts our relationship or anything. It's just a question he asks me and needs reassurance for, which I'm happy to do. And I created with him, one, that he can always ask me, because 2, I come from love.
Yeah.
And I made it very, very clear to him, I come from love. It's not something that I'm searching for. It's not something that, I come from love and I create it. So if you ever ask me that, the answer is going to be yes.
Yeah.
So, I made that very clear to him. And I said, given who he is, he can always ask me.
Yeah.
So, and, there's a point where I'm like, I can get that it could be annoying that somebody continues to ask, do you love me? Or, that. And for me, it's a ground rule we set with each other. Like, that's just something that's going to happen. And he's clear that I come from love. And it's just not a question of that. It's just something that's there in his process or something, Yeah. So it's an interesting thing.
Well, I actually have a whole, that's a whole nother podcast topic. And that's actually a podcast topic that I've been wanting to go down, a route that I've been wanting to go down is about words of affirmation. Yeah. And when like the line between like healthy words of affirmation, like this is somebody's love language, and unhealthy, like trying to get feedback from someone or just coming from insecurity and like always anyway, like again, like it's a totally different podcast.
Yeah.
And you know, long story short for this conversation, you know, I believe you, I trust you. Like I trust that, you know where he's coming from when he's asking that question. Yeah. And then it's not coming from doubt or insecurity or questioning or, you know, anything like that, that it's just a question.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it does come from, you know, like a insecurity or something, he's clear about it. Like he's clear about like, I'm asking this because, or, you know, like it's been made clear in how we're dealing with it, given how, you know, and for me, the biggest thing was that he's free to ask me anytime.
Because, and I guess sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I get that there's a fine line.
Yeah.
There's definitely a fine line. And it's, you know, and it can get quickly, like, it can become an issue and it becomes something. And for us, it's just like, the biggest thing for me was that I created clear that I come from love. And he even says it sometimes. Like, he's like, I know you come from love.
Oh.
You know, and that he has the freedom to ask me whatever he needs to ask me.
Yeah.
Because it will not ever change.
Right.
And I said that very clearly. It's just like, won't ever change. So you can ask me.
And,
you know,
maybe at some point he, you know, it won't be there for him to ask you anymore. Yeah. Because I think the other thing that I wanted to say about that too is that for me with Brandy, it was so incredible, like us being together and our relationship, and so new for me. Like it wasn't anything that I'd ever experienced before. Yeah. That I found myself doubting how amazing it was. Like that it wasn't actually real. Yeah. Like that it was that amazing for me, but maybe it wasn't that amazing for her. And so, like, actually, and she'll tell you this too, the first, like, several months of our relationship, there were a couple conversations that I had with her where it actually did come from insecurity on my part, because I was just like, I can't even imagine that you love me as much as I love you. Yeah. Like, it was so, like, unfathomable to me how real the amazingness was. Yeah. That I was just like, this can't be real. Yeah. This is miraculous. This is magical. This is beyond my wildest dreams. This can't be real. Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, for the first couple months, something like that, where I wasn't asking like, do you love me? But what I was saying was, you don't love me as much as I love you. Like it was like half teasing, half like in awe. Yeah. And like, disbelief.
This can't be. Yeah.
Right. Right. Like that's what it, and after, I think it was after like 3 months or something like that, she goes, I just don't know how to tell you that it's real. She's like, I've honestly been asking people how to tell you that it is real, that I really do love you as much as you love me, and it is this magical, and it is this miraculous, and it is this. She's like, I really don't know how to tell you. You're just gonna have to believe me. Right.
Having you say it that way, like I think that's where it comes from for him. Like he just has to be reassured. Like, is this real? Like, is this the way you feel? Right. Yeah. Can you actually feel the same way I feel? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And after a while for me, I was just like, it was after that conversation with her where it did flip in my brain a little bit, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like she's actively trying to figure out a way to communicate this to me. Like that was it for me, where I was just, and then I stopped asking that.
Yeah.
Like it was a non-issue for me anymore. It was like,
Yeah.
nope, all right, you're right. It is miraculous. I got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yep.
This is real life.
Yes. Yep.
Oh my God.
Totally.
Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love your love.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
You know.
I know.
It's so much fun.
Just
I love it.
you are glowing. You are. Oh my God. I don't even think your face can smile as big as you want it to.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I joke about like people, out in life probably get so sick of us, like because we are just so lovey-dovey. It's
whatever.
So funny, and it's it's totally like a joke. Like we're not gonna stop doing whatever we do, but like we are one of those couples that like seriously, you see us like cuddling on the at the bus stop and like holding hands all 100%. The time and like. Everything like we are always together. So it's one of those things I never thought I could have that, and it's exactly what I wanted. And I didn't even know it.
Oh, my whole heart. Diann, I love you so much. I am just so ridiculously happy for you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing again and being vulnerable again. And I'm so happy that this is what you have to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me back on.
Oh my
gosh.
I
love you too. I really do appreciate this podcast, what you do, and listening to everybody that's been on, and just being able to be one of the people to be on here and just contribute and be a part of it. It's incredible. I look forward to all the future podcasts and everything, and just it's incredible. It's made a difference in my life, so I really do appreciate it.
Wow, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah,
thank you for being a part of my love empire. That's what I'm doing. Diann Spicer. Now everybody knows I am building a love empire. That's what I'm doing.
That's fantastic.
All right, I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for listening to Love Dripping from the Walls. You can follow on Instagram or Facebook at Love Dripping from the Walls. Leave comments and questions, and I may share your thoughts on the podcast. Please rate and review on whatever platform you are listening on. If you want to support Love Dripping from the Walls, log on to the Anchor app and subscribe or give monthly donations. Keep listening and keep loving.